Hi, welcome back to Common Roots, the podcast where we dig into herbalism, herbalism, healthcare, and history. I am Caitlin.
I am Cheshire, like the cat.
This is
Common
Common Roots.
Roots.
Our quick disclaimer
Mhm.
this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. We are not providing medical advice. Always consult with a qualified healthcare practitioner, clinical herbalist, or your GP before starting any new herbal regimens, especially if you are pregnant, nursing, on medication, etc., etc. And always harvest your plants and herbs ethically, sustainably, and if you're harvesting from the wild, make sure you're absolutely positive in your identification. So last week we did our introduction and we sort of focused specifically on your experience.
Mhm.
We did dive into psychedelics in general, but specifically your experience.
Mhm.
This week we're doing what is going to be the more traditional format of the podcast, where we're going to talk about a story that relates to herbalism, healthcare, history. The title of today's episode is A for Ash, as in the ash tree.
Mhm.
So we will be discussing the ash tree, but that is going to be a little bit later on in the episode. We're going
Okay.
to do the history first and then the herbalism second. So today, our historical look back is going to be about the HIV/AIDS crisis in the 1980s and early 1990s. We are based in the UK, but we are American also.
Yes. I spent many
So,
years in America, and I'm very happy to be here in Brighton.
yes, we
It's a
love
lovely,
Brighton.
lovely place.
The story will touch on everywhere in America and in Europe.
Um,
So very quick, very quick historical breakdown.
okay.
HIV actually originated in 1920 in the
Really?
Democratic
That
Republic of the
early?
Congo.
That early? Huh.
hmm
Interesting.
Basically spread to Haiti and the Caribbean. It actually, based on the research that they did,
Mhm.
it actually did jump to New York City in about 1970. But because we didn't know what it was or anything, because you don't actually die of AIDS.
Okay.
AIDS is an immunocompromising illness.
Yes. Yeah.
So most of these people were dying from sarcoma, cancers, infections. Health officials in the US first became aware of HIV/AIDS in 1981 on the official scale. The first cases in the UK were reported in 1982. This illness was originally dubbed gay-related immune deficiency, or GRID.
Oh, no.
The media called it gay cancer.
Oh, delightful. I mean, I remember Rush Limbaugh or whatever used to do another one, Bites the Dust, while listing out names of people that had died. Yep.
It was not well addressed, specifically because of that.
Yeah.
So it is true that for the US, at least, most people infected with HIV were gay and bisexual men.
Mhm.
However, the UK specifically ended up with a large population of people who were intravenous drug users,
Mm.
as well as a group of medical patients with hemophilia and other blood disorders who became infected through the use of infected blood. This is actually a huge scandal in the UK known as the infected blood scandal. They imported dangerous plasma products from the US from pharmaceutical companies that they had stock in. And it resulted in a large number of hemophiliacs and other people who had gotten blood transfusions contracting HIV.
Well, and so how it all spreads, I think, was in the gay community, which was kind of on the outskirts of society and mistreated.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were poor. There's a lot of drugs in poorer communities because they're desperate. They don't see a way out. And then, in the US, I know they pay you for blood. So homeless people, other people who are desperate and in need of money to eat would donate their blood after being infected through any of a variety of means while this illness isn't being treated or taken care of at all or even acknowledged for it sounds like 11 or 12 years.
It was even worse than that. There were companies in the US who were extracting blood and plasma from prisoners, inmates,
Oh,
and they were labeling it as being from a different source.
ah,
And it wasn't mandatory to test blood.
I do know America has more prisoners than like any other country so that they can do wonderful things like that.
Yeah. So, public and government funding and grants for research in the U.S. were not allocated until 1985.
So how did they
It,
know? How do we know that it hit in 1970?
they went back and identified people who had died of sarcomas and
Okay.
other things that they were. It was basically they were reasonably certain.
Yeah.
I would even say beyond a reasonable doubt. So, the first drug to treat HIV/AIDS, it cost $8,000 a year in 1987 money.
So a lot.
Yes, it was the most expensive drug ever made at that time.
And you need it to live.
In 1986, a meeting of 80 gay men in New York City raised $6,635, which is equivalent to about 24 grand, 17,000 pounds in today's money. It would be all that was available to research, to use to research, because there were no public funds. This was private money.
Wow.
In 1986 in the UK, I mentioned this previously, but a member of the Sainsbury's dynasty donated her entire fortune to create an organization called Avert, which would do private research into HIV/AIDS.
86. So this was 6 years after.
Yes.
But that's it. That's all there was, basically. It sounds like, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's huge.
Yes. The big difference between the US and the UK, obviously, is the NHS. The NHS provided treatment for free starting in 1987. The main issue was getting people tested and diagnosed. People didn't want to go in to be tested before they were showing symptoms. It was a stigma, right? You have a disease that's mainly in the gay and bisexual population. You have a disease that's mainly in the population of African immigrants who are coming into the UK.
Yeah. I
You
mean, I
have
know
intravenous drug users.
when I grew up in school in the early 2000s,
Mm-hmm.
like gay was an insult that everybody used constantly.
Yeah.
So I can't even imagine in 1980, people are calling it the gay disease and you're supposed to go in and get checked.
It wasn't until after 2006 that the UK had an estimated 75% of people successfully diagnosed and on treatment plans, which is still thousands upon thousands of people who are
No.
untreated, undiagnosed.
Well, I also know there's a lot of people, even still, who, I mean, there's nothing wrong with how you identify, right? But a lot of people have huggy fun time in bed with exclusively people of the same gender identity, but do not identify as homosexual. And I seriously doubt in 2006, because like I said, even mid 2000s,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't a very good atmosphere. So trying to get someone like that to go in and get tested for what was still, I think, thought of as the gay disease at that point would have been like pulling teeth. It wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
75% is still decent. It's better than nothing.
It's quite high now. There's still
Yes.
some specific populations in which it's very difficult to get them to come in and test.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, the UK has lightened up a lot. But in the US especially, it's very difficult to get like sex workers to come in to get tested.
Yeah.
Things like that. So by the year 1990, the reported number of deaths to AIDS had reached over 130,000 people.
That's a lot. By when?
1990.
1990. So it hits in 1970, and in 20 years it wipes out like a mid-sized city.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, this was an insanely aggressive illness.
Yeah.
I mean, they had people who were being diagnosed with AIDS. They would go into the hospital that day. They had wards in the mid 80s in most cities by that point. Chicago, New York City, LA. They had special wards for these people where they were receiving round the clock care, and they would still die in months. So the progression of the illness itself was a huge factor, but we cannot at all understate how utterly the government and other institutions failed the community. I mean, from the beginning, it was basically a media blitz about this is something that's going to kill gay men. Woohoo.
Yeah. People were cheering about it. But then, of course, it turns around, right? Because you might say that it mostly affected the gay and bi community. But I'm sure it also affected the heterosexual community pretty a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And
And
it's almost like I wonder, because a lot of it, I think that's when people started researching it. Because I remember that basically there was a big news article about a heterosexual cis woman who got infected and died. And that's when research started.
yes, I mean, there were a lot of, yeah, so there were a lot of, obviously, it's not a gay disease. It
Yeah.
doesn't just infect gay people. It moved, it happened to heterosexual couples. It happened to sex workers,
Yeah.
drug users, due to, dirty needles.
Yeah.
Um,
And then you throw those drug users in prison,
hmm
take their blood, lie about where it came from, and sell it
Yeah.
to the
So
UK. Yeah.
there was initially quite a bit of pushback. There was a group of people who had to basically advocate for women with HIV to get treatment because a lot of these wards were men only wards.
Really?
They
Well, so
made,
what if a woman goes in and she says, "I've got AIDS"? They just say, "Good luck."
I mean, obviously they would try to accommodate her, but the whole idea is that they hadn't built any accommodations,
Ah, so there was
right?
like a quarantine for the men, but not the women.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy. Well, I also know. I mean, women in America got the right to have their own bank accounts in what, 72? So I'm sure there was a lot of sexism.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There was a fair percentage of lesbians as well who had contracted HIV/AIDS, and that was very difficult.
Yeah.
It was, they didn't bother to test women or tell them to get tested,
Yeah.
right? That was the big thing, is that a lot of these places had volunteers who would go out to the gay community or to the drug using community and be like, you got to go get tested. You can get treatment, doesn't have to turn into AIDS. Like, you'll live longer, it's going to be okay. And they didn't target women in those
As
spaces.
much. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that's also horrible. But it's like, so, I mean, admittedly, what was it, 16 years? I can't remember entirely. 130,000 people died. I mean, on the one hand, what a tragedy. But on the other hand, what a miracle, right? I mean, it could have spread to everyone like COVID did,
It's
right?
actually it's no, it's has to do with the mucous membrane. So their mucous membrane is like a blood barrier that your
Okay.
body has.
Hmm.
So it's quite, that's part of the reason that it was so controlled in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
It really was difficult to catch HIV/AIDS unless you were having sex, sharing needles, or specifically, you'd have to like, cut your hands and cut their hands and like shake hands for 10 minutes kind of a thing. The thing is that that's why it was difficult.
Yeah.
It was actually a little more difficult to spread than people assumed.
I know it's not that way anymore. I don't want to panic people. I know if you take your PrEP, the anti-AIDS medication, then like you're safe basically.
Anti-HIV.
Or anti-HIV,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah. Because it lowers your viral load or something, right? So you're
It can make it undetectable.
yeah. So you're pretty much safe at that point.
I am going to talk a little bit about some communities that came
Hmm.
together to collaborate, do private research, and all of that stuff, kind of trying to help when the government wouldn't. So, back in 1972, there was a community center in Chicago called the Puerto Rican Cultural Center. It was a nonprofit community based center which served the Puerto Rican Latin community in Chicago. So in 1988, they responded to the epidemic in Chicago by opening an all volunteer health clinic. It was entirely staffed by volunteers,
Wow.
and they offered free complementary therapy
Yeah.
to people who were diagnosed with HIV and AIDS. So it provided services such as acupuncture, massage, chiropractic care, nutritional counseling, and Tai Chi.
See, that's the sort of stuff that I love though. Because
Mm-hmm.
basically there was a need and it wasn't being met. So people filled it on their own.
Yeah,
It's a little sad that they were in the position that they had to do that. But, you know,
yeah.
it just
So
goes to show that like there are people like you. If you have an issue that isn't being met, you can work together to fight it.
yeah. So yeah, the PRCC was not offering cures or even like medical treatment They referred out to doctors and they would encourage people to go get tested.
Yeah.
But these are complementary therapies, complementary um, services, I guess you could say. What do you think about that kind of care? Do you think there's a point to offering those kinds of services in the face of a medical crisis?
Well, I think so. The first thing is there was no treatment back then, right? This or was this after the treatment?
This was in '88, so there were early
Sure,
treatments,
but they were
exorbitantly
8,000
expensive.
a year,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm sure most people that were afflicted by this probably couldn't afford, right? They had to
Mm-hmm.
decide, would you like a house? Would you like to eat? Would you like to drink? Or would you like to not die of your disease? So I think these centers, I think part of it also, like these people knew they were going to die. If you know you have 6 months or a year to live, unless you can somehow scrape up a bunch of money that you don't have, I think, yeah, being able to like go and be with people who have the same dire circumstances as you, and also people who care about you and want to help you, even if they might not be able to save your life. I think that helped. Yeah, I think that's very worthwhile, right? I don't think anyone did tai Chi and it cured their AIDS necessarily or their HIV, but just to be able to be in like a community and with people and know that you're not going to die alone and afraid and some grifter is going to play another one bites the dust, right? Like I do think that is a lot. That's an incredible amount of love that the volunteers must have had to do something like that.
Yeah, and we know that stress and anxiety have a huge impact on your immune system.
Yeah.
Cortisol levels suppress the body's immune response.
That's true. It probably extended their life a little bit by not being, in complete despair.
We have a lot of scientific links between chronic stress and autoimmune disorders of all kinds. In Australia, for example, right now, in the modern day, about 45% of HIV patients use marijuana for medicinal purposes.
Hmm.
They feel more peaceful, they feel less pain, less stress, and a better sense of overall well being.
So,
So there was also an art collaborative in Chicago called HaHa, HAHA, all
okay.
caps, group of about 20 or 30 people organized by this art collective built and maintained a hydroponic garden in a storefront on the north side of Chicago.
Wow.
They grew vegetables like kale, collard greens, mustard greens, Swiss chard, as well as therapeutic herbs for people specifically with HIV. For several years, the storefront called Flood provided bi weekly meals, educational activities, a meeting space, public events, and information on complementary therapies. And it was somewhat loosely organized. It was basically like if you wanted to come in and garden,
Hmm.
you could come in and garden.
They relied on the community again,
Mm-hmm,
basically. It sounds like, yeah.
mm-hmm.
I mean, that's very interesting. Hydroponics as well, I find fascinating. But so none of those plants, it sounds like, are particularly rare. I wonder,
No.
is it because it was in like a food desert, basically? So it just
No, so
wasn't
the idea
accessible?
was is that they were growing them in the hydroponics without pesticides or special fertilizers,
Hmm.
and they were preparing them in a sterilized environment.
Ah,
So
okay.
they were giving the patients basically very nutritionally dense food that was prepared in a very specific way.
And healthily and interesting.
In order to boost their immune system and prevent, I mean, we have reports of like, especially when it comes to like spinach and greens and things,
Yeah.
you can get E. coli and things like that
Yeah.
from it. So,
Well, anything grown outside, obviously, you
hmm
never really know what's in the area. And also, I know in order to prevent it from being eaten by bugs, they put so much pesticide on it. It's like, I mean, I remember when I was younger, back in my day.
oh no,
But I
okay,
would
Auntie.
drive and like there'd be bugs all over the window and everything. And now it's like you go out, there's nothing. We know what the problem is,
hmm
basically. And in the UK, at least, they have fixed it a little bit. But I mean, that's really important. I think people underestimate how important bugs are a lot because they're not cute and cuddly, basically. First of all, the bugs make stuff that we get to eat. And second of all, they make stuff we get to eat another way that,
Yeah.
a bat
Birds
eats a
and
bug
yeah.
and something eats that bat and we eat that thing.
It's the circle of life. Anyway, so some specific herbal treatments I was able to find sources for
Mhm.
were licorice root and milk thistle. Licorice root has antiviral properties, and milk thistle is a liver supportive herb which helps you to process and remove toxins.
Interesting.
In addition to treatments for HIV, which those are kind of are trying to reduce the viral load, so to speak. Many herbs were used to treat side effects. Demulcent herbs like marshmallow root and slippery elm soothed lesions in the mouth and throat, which
Mm.
helped people to swallow and eat, which was a big factor. They also used St. John's wort externally because it's actually an incredibly powerful skin care. It's really good on cuts, scrapes, things like that
Is it like
externally.
antiseptic?
It has antiseptic properties. It also is
Promotes wound healing?
promotes wound healing. That's the one.
Interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's really fascinating. I know St. John's wort is somewhat controlled, right?
Yes,
Because of how
because
strong it is, basically.
because internally it can be really hit or miss.
Really?
It became very famous for being a good alternative antidepressant,
Hmm.
but it actually conflicts with how SSRIs work in your brain.
Yeah.
And additionally, it's not an exact science, right?
Sure.
So there were a lot of people who found help from it, but a lot of people who didn't, and a lot of people it made worse.
Interesting. But that's how a
So
lot of SSRIs work too. But I guess, you can grow St. John's wort in your backyard. It's hard for a corporation to monetize. Yeah. So now it's more controlled.
yeah,
But I will say that is important what you said, because my understanding is if you're taking an SSRI and it's not working or whatever, it's not working well enough, and you add St. John's wort to it, that can be deadly. So
yeah,
do be very careful, right? Don't mix it with anything.
yeah,
And it takes a while for SSRIs to get out of your system, is my understanding as well, right?
yes,
So even if you've been taking an SSRI and then you go off it, if you wait, 24 hours and then take St. John's wort, you can still die.
it's definitely something to treat with a level of care. On that line of thinking, I do want to mention a couple of things that I read online for sort of modern day people. So, a lot of people who have HIV, even if they're taking modern treatments, like to still go for herbal remedies that they think will help them. So, big one is apparently garlic capsules because they're supposed to protect your heart and a lot of other things. However, they interact badly with drugs in the protease inhibitor class, which is what a lot of these HIV drugs are,
Okay.
antiretroviral drugs.
Talk to your
So
doctor, basically. Is that?
says pretty much don't do it.
Oh, just don't do it at all.
That's what all of the AIDS organizations were saying. Like there's an
Interesting.
aidsmap.org and there's in the UK there's the Terrence Higgins Trust.
But I have to imagine, because of the history of it, the quite recent history, right? You could be 50 years old and had to deal with a lot of this nonsense.
So there have been studies in South Africa that show that herbal remedies can be good supplements to antiretroviral therapy because of their immune boosting properties.
Okay.
Specifically, also, a lot of individuals who are taking herbal supplements alongside the standard antiretrovirals consistently report a greater quality of life. So, what I wanted to ask you in that regard
Hmm.
is how do you think the impact of sort of taking control of a part of your own disease treatment might help these people see that their quality of life has improved?
Well, I think our whole goal here with this podcast and everything is to promote that people take more interest and care of and in their own health. So I do think if you want to try various different herbal remedies, as well as taking your medication, then that's probably a good thing. I
Don't
think do
just
your research,
start.
make sure that it's always better to start with a smaller dose, because then if you have any kind of adverse effect, it won't be necessarily as bad. And then maybe you could build up slowly to a larger dose. And consult with people with expertise if possible. But also, I do think that there is an element of, I mean, we have many books here that have a lot of research in them that I haven't read, but you have. I guess what I'm saying is I like it. Obviously, I think that's our goal, basically. Just be very careful with it because I don't want to tell someone, St. John's wort is the best and it cures depression or whatever, which it may well. But if you're taking an SSRI and you don't know that, there's that intermix, then that could be very bad.
Yeah.
And I think when you go to a doctor and you get medications, you can somewhat entrust that they won't give you two medications that combined will kill you. Although I will say, I think I mentioned this the last episode. I did have, when I was trying antidepressants, I had an antidepressant that the top side effect was insomnia. And I had incredibly bad insomnia and told that to the doctor multiple times. And they never said anything about it. I had to find out on my own that it was because of that medication.
Yeah.
So I think any medication, even that you get from a doctor, you should look at, right?
Yeah.
Look at the side effects. I do think there is an element of if you know too much, you can panic. You can worry because some of the side effects on a lot of these medications are like, you might have you might get a little bloated, you might be a little sleepy, or you might instantly die. And I think a lot of people read that last one and their eyes bug out of their head, justifiably so. You can give yourself a panic attack, basically, if you're really worried about this. If you're like, I'm going to die, then you'll start to feel like you're going to die. And it's not good for you.
Yeah, well, like we talked about, stress and anxiety,
Yes.
increasing cortisol, reducing your immune response.
Yeah.
It's not going to make you feel any better.
So I think it's important to be knowledgeable about your own health and also to try to do things slowly where you can.
Mm-hmm.
Don't, do that if you have HIV and someone gives you whatever the medication is called. Don't do that slowly. Do what the doctor tells you to do, please.
Yeah, but we're talking about incorporating complementary
but incorporating complementary medicines, I think it's important to do it slowly and with a decent amount of knowledge. Check multiple sources, right? You never know.
Yeah,
'cause
and I also
one source will tell you one thing, but that could be anybody. That could be the guy on the side of the street that says the world is going to end.
Yeah, and
So-
try not to use AI as a source.
Yes.
Yeah, I will say in doing a lot of research for this topic, I was pretty proud of the UK in terms of what they did versus the US. Yet another time where I'm like, the US really dropped the ball. But, I mean, I'm not going to pretend that it was great. Obviously, the UK had its own issues with the LGBT community and intravenous drug users at the time because they had extremely aggressive drug policies. Sort of everything comes to the UK from the US on a delay.
Yeah, of course.
So even though it had even though they had a death in 82, the real peak of cases in the UK wasn't until the 90s.
So they were a little bit in advance in some ways.
Yeah. I mean, in the UK specifically, Princess Diana went on a huge campaign to support HIV/AIDS patients. She opened up wards and was publicly seen touching and interacting with people with HIV/AIDS. I will say that even though the UK was a little bit better in terms of the LGBTQ scene of handling HIV/AIDS, they were a lot worse in some other ways. Like I said, intravenous drug users.
Interesting.
Especially in Scotland, Edinburgh, and Glasgow. One point in the 90s, you could not get a clean needle in the entire city. And they just kept reusing the same needles over and over again. And they would sharpen them on concrete to keep using them. And then, of course, the UK has a higher percentage of immigrants from Africa because it's closer. So I did find something interesting that I kind of wanted to get your opinion on.
Okay.
The UK has opt-out bloodborne virus testing in all of the emergency departments. So if you go to an emergency department and you give them blood, they're going to test it, unless you tell them not to.
But you can say, I don't want you to test this.
Sure.
Interesting. That is interesting.
It was to address this specific issue.
Why? I guess. Did they give any reasoning?
It was to address the fact that people wouldn't get tested for HIV/AIDS. So basically,
Ah,
it would be like if we can tell someone that they have HIV, they got in a car accident, they get some blood taken to check that they're okay. We've found out that they have HIV and we can tell them and they can get treatment. However, it is one of those things where you're not volunteering to get tested. The hospital is doing it, whether you like it or not, unless you can tell them. It's an opt out, like I said. I mean, imagine if you're coming to the hospital and you're unconscious or you don't speak English as a first language.
it's hard to opt out.
Yeah. So I wonder about especially with something like this, HIV/AIDS, where you can hurt so many people without even knowing it.
So it sounds like basically what it is they want people to come in and get tested, which obviously, I mean, I think that's a good thing to do, but people would reject being tested for many reasons because of their distrust of doctors,
And the
basically, really,
stigma associated
and
with
the
it. A
stigma.
lot of people are like, well, if I don't know, then I don't have it. I worry about this seems like a good use case, but it also seems like something that could be used against someone.
But they're not just testing for
They're
HIV/AIDS,
testing
right?
for bloodborne viruses.
I think that's a good thing. I do think everything you said is important, right? If you're unconscious and you can't give consent, I think that's heavily flawed.
Yeah. So, another interesting thing that I wanted to do a little bit of reading to share with you guys is a website called healthcareworkersinhiv.org.uk. It is an oral recordings of interviews with various people who worked in HIV wards and things like that in the UK. And I liked some of the stories, so I figured I'd give them a little read and share. So the first story is from Simon, who was an HIV consultant, talking about the fear and prejudice that he saw with other healthcare colleagues who were doing other specialties.
Okay.
So I think we were talking about why or how we related to the rest of the hospital. Some people were in fear of our patients. People were still worried that they might get infected themselves or that we might be contaminated. There were, and still are, people who felt a disproportionate amount of resources were being put over to homosexuals, black people, and injecting drug users. Are you worthwhile to be treated, invested in, given a special ward, special doctors, special nurses, special pharmacists? What's that all about? We didn't just get given it, we fought for it because it was the right thing to do to respond to the AIDS epidemic. It wasn't something that we got given out of some sort of sympathy. People fought to create a service that had to be different because of the nature of the condition, the threat which it posed, and of course, the attitudes of the many people who would not have given it any resource if it had been allocated on the basis of what the NHS provides. So I think we, as a group, doctors, but across healthcare, people wanted to respond to the problem. And thankfully, we found politicians like Norman Fowler and others who helped us to do that despite the system. So, yeah, it was a time where you felt like you were fighting for things. But every time you got given something, we would put it to tremendously valuable use.
Yeah, it must have been quite a battle just to get any respect at all.
We know that there is a shortage of healthcare workers and a shortage of carers, and a lot of immigrants who come to other countries work in those fields.
Yes, I do. I
So
know that.
it is one of those things where you're shooting yourself in the foot out of
Yes.
distrust, hatred.
And fear,
Yeah.
and paranoia. Yeah.
So another story is from Geraldine Riley. She was a staff nurse and then a community liaison nurse on the HIV ward. She talks about volunteers within the model of care. We had the most amazing group of volunteers at Chelsea and Westminster. Jean, I can just see Jean. She was this mother that looked after the volunteers. Her son had died of HIV. And she and the other volunteers replaced their parents, those people that didn't have parents, that hadn't told them. They were there every day. They made the most amazing food. They gave the most amazing care and love. And while we couldn't have looked after people the way that we did without the support of that voluntary service, they would relieve people's parents. They would relieve being someone's parents. And I think the volunteers made it a lot easier for the parents to be around.
It becomes less of like a dirty, stigmatized thing. You're going to visit the leper colony, and more of like, you should be here. You can be here. It doesn't make you part of this like underground, hidden, horrible thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I do think. I mean, it's. I think the shame and the guilt of it for a lot of people is enforced by society. So I'm not blaming those people for a lot of this, but it only hurts everyone. Hurts the people who are sick with it and the people who aren't,
Yeah.
because
I
it
think,
makes it harder to get treatment.
yeah. And I think this goes for a lot of chronic diseases or disabilities. I think a lot of people worry about sharing it with their loved ones because they'll be perceived as less or there will be judgment. I think too many people hide things like that.
Maybe somewhat of a non sequitur, but when my grandparents were getting Alzheimer's, basically, they hid it for a long time, and it didn't help them really.
Mm-hmm.
But I do get somewhat the impetus to do so because we tried our best to take care of them, but ultimately we had to put them in a home because they were. My grandfather would wake up at like 3 a.m., wander out into the kitchen of his home, grab a lighter, and try to light the electric stove with a lighter. And it's like, you're gonna die. You're gonna kill not only yourself, but my brother lived up in the same house. And I was staying there taking care of them. But
Mm-hmm.
it's like, I didn't wake up at 3 a.m. when he was waking up randomly to do things like this.
Yeah. Yeah, I think especially when you're older, there's a lot of fear, a lot of worry about your independence. And I think that goes for aging and I think it goes for chronic diseases.
Well, I
I
think
think
that.
people are
Oh, sorry.
far too obsessed with being independent. I think it's become this like obsession. Like, don't get me wrong. I think that adults have the right to live alone, and the fact that you can't afford to live alone anymore kind of friggin' sucks.
Yeah.
However, it's not a thing in a lot of places. You stay with your family for a
Yes.
long time, and the community supports you, and it's like there's so many Western cultures where that's completely gone.
I agree. There is like, so my mother actually, I have my own problems with her, but she took care of my grandfather very well. We actually took him back out of the nursing home.
Hmm.
But I do think like the nursing home, really, and he went to a pretty nice nursing home. It's not that dissimilar from like a prison, honestly. He had a roommate. He basically stayed in his room. Um, the nurses were so overworked that they would lose or destroy his clothes all the time,
Hmm.
or take them. There was a lot of theft, but also he had Alzheimer's, so it's like he didn't. Sometimes he would accuse people of theft, and it's like, was it?
Yeah.
But it was just horrible because I remember I went there every week, and truthfully, I was enormously privileged to even be able to do that because I would do it in the middle of the day every Wednesday, and that was when I was working for my father, so he would let
Hmm.
me go do that.
Yeah.
What job in the world would let you go do that?
Yeah.
But it was quite a drive to get there. And then there was a sign in sheet, and you had to sign in every time. And there were literally pages upon pages of just my name, nobody else. And then, maybe one other person. And then
Yeah.
another like 4 pages of my name.
Yeah.
It was really horrible.
Yeah.
So I do think like I get the impetus to want to avoid that, but also like we put him there for his safety. And we did ultimately we brought him back, but again, like my mother had to be privileged to be able to do this because he needed like a special medical bed that she set up in one of the rooms in their house basically. The bed itself was extremely expensive, and I know in this country especially, there just isn't the space for something like that. I mean, he took up a whole room of the house, and
Yeah.
my parents had decent amount of money, so they had quite a few rooms, so that wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
Because all us kids had moved out, but most people don't have space for something like that. But she did. She took care of him, and I do think. I mean, I think like a lot of people really want to get away from their families, and it doesn't help you often. I do think, like, if your family is cruel to you and you can't stand to be around them,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
different,
I'm
right?
not talking
Separating
about that as
yourself.
much, but I'm talking
Yeah.
about this push to be independent. You got to go, you're an adult, go live somewhere else,
Or you're a failure.
work and
Yeah.
support yourself all by yourself.
Why shouldn't you be able to live with your parents until you're 25? And maybe you can chip in, right? Like, you can help them around the house with things if you're able to do that. If you have extra money, maybe
Mhm.
you could contribute to some of
Yeah.
the household expenses. But often, your parents are in better shape than you, and I'm sure your parents love you. So I don't think it makes you bad to rely on them.
Yeah.
And parents also, like, love your kids, right? I don't think it makes your kid, because my parents made fun of my older brother. This was after the 2008 financial crisis for not being able to get a job. He graduated, I think it was in 2008, from college. So he couldn't do anything. And they made it really torturous for him just to be able to live in their house. They were like, you're useless. But, like, that sucks, Like, that's so, like, hurtful. And it's not like he wasn't trying. There just wasn't anything to do. No one would hire a fresh graduate in 2008. It just wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
So I think, like, you do need to be nice. These are your kids. These are your parents. If you love each other, you should be nicer to each other. And
Yeah.
it helps. I hate living alone. When I first moved out and was totally alone, it was terrifying. Every little creak and noise, I was like, someone's coming to kill me, which obviously wasn't true, but, like, it was scary.
Yeah.
I loved having roommates even, but that was like a found family because my family was so bad. Yeah.
So,
So
last story I wanted to read is from Tony Pinching. He was an HIV consultant and he is talking about mixed support networks, basically. There was also a very nice aspect to having mixed clinics, which came up at my clinic in Bart's, which was explicitly a mixed clinic, particularly including people with chronic fatigue syndrome, or ME, and AIDS patients. And they often would all be there on the same day. And there was one time when I had been seeing an ME patient for years, and I said, "Look, I think you know really all I can guide you on. You can always come back if you need to, but I don't think you need to come so often anymore. You're on top of this and you know what to do." And her face sort of fell, and I said, "Oh no, you can always come back." And she said, "Oh no, it's not that. It's not you." She said, "It's the boys." And I said, "The boys?" And what emerged is that out in the waiting room, there was a group of gay men for whom she had been the mother figure and had looked after them all, and some of them had organized their appointments around her appointment. And she was running her own little therapy clinic in the waiting room. Just a really nice, social, supportive relationship. And suddenly I became aware of something completely else going on. They weren't just coming for me.
that's wonderful. I mean, I think that's beautiful. I mean, that's exactly what I hope we can build towards and help other people build towards,
Yeah.
right? It's people helping each other. That's just pure. I mean, that's really that's nice. That's a light in the darkness.
Yeah. I think as difficult as the story of the HIV/AIDS crisis is, and there's so many horrible, sad stories that we could get into about the mistreatment and the stigma and the slow response. But I think what's really important and what I wanted to focus on is how the community came together to take care of these people and love these people and not let them die alone. Like, there were volunteers who would go just to hold people's hands so that they didn't die alone. And I think that's really the message that I want to express and share when I talk about these histories of stories in healthcare is yeah, it sucks when the system abandons you, but we don't have to rely on the system if there's people who are there and want to help.
And look for the helpers, right? In any bleak situation,
Yeah.
there's always good people willing to help.
Yeah.
Um, I do think that helps alleviate some of the horror of it.
Mhm.
I also think, like, yeah, that the mixing the patients, that's smart, right? Because I think I read something a long time ago, but basically most bigotry is the people who are the most bigoted have never met someone of the type of person that they are bigoted against, often,
Mm-hmm.
right? The majority of them. It's all just like propaganda that they hear, that they see, that is all lies,
Mm-hmm.
basically. And then once you meet someone and you talk with them, and it's someone that you've been told to hate, and they're just like a normal person like you, suddenly it melts. The illusion is broken. So I do think that helps to be out and about and in the community and with it. And you need to really, I think people, a lot of things are stigmatized, and it's hard to break that stigma when you're the only one doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But rarely are you the only one that has this problem. And I think it's okay to push up against the stigma a little bit, because that's how it breaks. And
Mm-hmm.
when the stigma breaks, when the taboo is broken, when people could see that you're just a person like them with dreams and thoughts and hopes and wishes of your own, then they can be nice and
Yeah.
change for the better.
Yeah.
And
I
I think we
think
can all change for the better.
I think connection is the strongest way to fight those kinds of things.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So, the ash tree. For those who are audio listening, we have brought with us some ash sticks.
Oh, should I do the ASMR?
I don't
It
know
does,
how
it
that's
sounds
going to
wonderful,
sound.
actually. I
It
really
does
like
sound
it.
really nice. So, the ash tree, like I
Mm-hmm.
said, Fraxinus excelsior,
Fraxinus
Frasinus
Excelsior.
excelsior. I
Frasian.
do not know how to pronounce the frax part. Definitely excelsior, I know how to pronounce. In Norse mythology,
Mhm.
the entire cosmos is held within the branches of roots of Yggdrasil, which is an ash tree.
Interesting.
It has three great roots which reach down to the realm of the gods, the realm of the frost giants, and the realm of the dead. An eagle sits at the top, a dragon gnaws at its roots, and it is tended by the Norns, who carve the fate of all beings into its trunk. The ash is also sacred in Celtic mythology. It is one of the three sacred trees of the Irish. The other two are the oak and the hawthorn. It was known as the tree of life. To cut down a community's sacred ash was considered an act of war because it was believed to connect the earthly realm with the spiritual realm. It is a very powerful tree. It's also it's a very good workable tree in
Like
terms of the
useful.
wood. And I
That's
think
interesting.
if you're using it, you're touching it, you're connecting to it. Like, even
Yeah.
if you're just cutting it down to use it to build something, I think there's something to be said about putting your hands on that wood and
Well, if your home is made of this tree, and your boat that you
mm,
go out to fish with, and your fishing rod, and, all these other things, I do think I could see how that would make it sacred.
yeah.
Absolutely. Or even if it's more specific, right? Like the best bows come from ash wood or
I mean,
something.
it is flexible, more flexible.
More flexible. Interesting. Yeah, so that maybe that has something to do with it then. Like the
Yeah.
flexibility and usefulness of the wood
Mm-hmm.
becomes like it has this sacred power
Yeah.
imparted to it. Cuz I can tell, I mean, I'm holding just this little stick, but it's pretty good. It's pretty sturdy.
Mm.
Really, I don't
Yeah.
think.
Ashes, I think it's called like a medium hardwood. So it's sturdy and strong, but it still has flexibility. Yeah. Oh, so apparently it is valued for its exceptional toughness, flexibility, and shock resistance, which makes it ideal for tool handles, axes,
Tool
spades, shovels.
handles.
So if you're farming,
Well, anything, right? Because I know they pushed back. My understanding is the age of like human civilization, basically,
hmm,
and I think a lot of people think of people like hiding in caves, but my understanding is that people were using caves as like storage and for like factories and to take shelter, of course, sometimes if
hmm,
there was like a big storm, but generally they may well have had things like tents. It's just that those things rot, basically, right? So we haven't found any. We only find
yeah.
stone tools, but my knowledge is that there may have been a wood age. So this may reach really far back. That it's like this is what we used for our tools.
Yeah.
Is this wood?
It does say they have found handles on Neolithic axes made of ash.
Really?
Yeah, because you
Wow.
can fossilize. It'll fossilize sometimes,
Sometimes. Yeah.
especially in the bogs.
Yeah.
I don't know why I said it with an accent, but
But what if people were making an axe wholly out of ash, I guess is what I'm saying, right? Not necessarily for cutting down trees, but for cutting down, like, for butchering meat,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
example.
So yeah, ash is strong but flexible. So it was used for ladders, floorboards. It was apparently also the favored timber for arrows.
For arrows, yeah, interesting.
Fun fact for the UK, it's cricket bats.
Ha, that is fun. Interesting.
So yeah, that's I mean, it's an incredibly useful wood. Basically, I mean,
Yeah,
oak is very popular, obviously, in carpentry, but it doesn't have that flexibility.
yeah. But oak wasn't as sacred, I guess,
Right.
is what it sounds like. Because Yggdrasil wasn't an oak, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is, like, really, they picked a specific tree. They didn't just say it's a tree. I didn't know that, actually. So that's really, it must have had a lot of significance for
Yeah.
them to be like, it's not just a tree,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So ash contains numerous compounds. I'm going to butcher the words right now. Sequoiaridoids.
Sequoia, oh God, I can't say that either.
Sequoiaridoids.
Sequoidoids?
Sure. Phenylethyanoids.
Phenylethyanoids, that I can say.
Flavonoids. I got.
Flavonoids.
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 Coumarins.
Coumarins.
And lignans.
Lignans, that I can say.
So these are all antioxidants, which protect cells from damage. They are anti-inflammatory, which eases the inflammation in your body. They help to manage your cholesterol, lower blood pressure, increase neuroplasticity, decrease cognitive decline, and are anti-carcinogenic.
Interesting.
Basically, phytochemicals obtained from medicinal plants, herbs, seeds, and fruits, specifically these flavonoids and all the other words that I said that I'm not going to try again, have shown promising effects in suppressing proliferation of cancerous cells.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's incredible.
So,
I mean, I didn't. My understanding is you have to use what's it called, the radiation therapy, basically. Which,
yeah.
I mean, I guess you still
we're
do.
not talking about curing cancer.
Yeah,
here.
but
We're
it makes
talking
it
about
less bad.
preventing,
Yeah.
and we're talking about taking care of your body, right? So
While
if
you
you
have
have
this
something
issue.
that's anti-carcinogenic and your body is in the very early stages of making some nonsense,
Yeah.
it
It
can
gives
help
you
to
more
stop
time to
it.
catch it too.
Yeah.
And then it's
And slow
it's
it.
easier to treat.
So, and we've heard about antioxidants for a while now. I think it's like the last 20
Yes.
years people have been talking about antioxidants. And I think it's really important to remember that. I mean, obviously, talking about the ash here, but there's so many natural plants and fruits and veg that all contain these compounds, flavonoids, carotenoids, that's in carrots.
But they're different, right? Like you say flavonoids, that's just an arbitrary classification.
For a bunch of different
The
things
ash
all
has
over under an umbrella.
specific flavonoids with specific purposes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So the leaves are most commonly dried and infused in a tea or tincture. They are an anti inflammatory as well as a diuretic. So they flush excess acid from the body, previously used to treat gout, which it might still help with that. It's also helpful for arthritis and rheumatoid arthritis. It does have a laxative effect in high doses, so watch out unless you want that. And it's incredibly rich in potassium.
Interesting.
Some specific treatments that it's been used for in the past: detoxifying the kidneys, urinary tract difficulties, flushing the body, treating chronic inflammation such as rheumatoid arthritis, addressing constipation or enlarged prostate issues. And then just as a general preventative, preventing inflammation, having antioxidants. It's got those healthy tannins that we like.
So what's the best way to consume it? Because I know we have some leaves that you turned into a tea.
Yes.
Is that the best way, basically?
I would probably say that the tea is pretty dang good.
Is there anything like, because I know for a lot of plants it depends on which part of the plant, basically, right? Because you mentioned lignans.
Mm-hmm.
Those are in the wood, surely, right?
Yes.
So
The
should
next
you be
thing
chewing
I have,
twigs?
so it's actually the bark.
Ah,
So
okay.
there is ash bark dried and decocted, which means it's been slow simmered. Don't let
Hmm.
it boil. You can drink that in tea or tinctures. It has a higher concentration of coumarins, tannins, and phenolic glycosides, which are some of those nice compounds we were talking about. It is more potent than the leaves.
Ah,
In the
okay.
past, it's been used as a fever reducer and an astringent.
Interesting. What is an astringent again? I know kind of, but not really.
It's something that the best way I always describe it is like it dries you out. But I'm going to
Okay.
look up the actual definition.
Just to be safe.
Substances that constrict body tissues, primarily used to remove excess oil and tighten skin.
Interesting.
Mm.
I mean, I really like that it's got a lot of potassium in it
Mm-hmm.
because whenever I think potassium, I think of a banana, but of course that's
Mm-hmm.
not a native fruit. That's grown abroad and then shipped in a giant shipping thing, belching black smoke into the atmosphere. So I do think this could maybe. I mean, bananas are also tasty. There's nothing wrong with having a banana every once in
I
a
like a
while.
banana sometimes.
Sure. I mean, I think it's part of my diet shake currently, actually.
Yeah.
But it is just like if you need potassium, there are other ways to get it
Mm-hmm.
um, that are more local and natural.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
so I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah. So, final part of the tree that is used is the sap, which isn't actually a true sap. It's also called manna, manna. It is a result of damage to the tree. It contains mannitol, which is a sugar alcohol that has gentle laxative effects. It's actually sold as a safe natural laxative for children or the elderly.
Hmm.
So, those are the three main things.
So what makes it not a true sap? Saps are certain
Saps are
stickiness.
No, saps. So saps exist in the tree veins, I guess you could say. Sort of like we have blood all the time
Sure.
in our bodies.
Yeah.
This is produced by the tree after it's been damaged, specifically.
Okay. So if you wanted to harvest some, basically,
You got to cut into the tree.
and then wait like a day and come back,
Yeah,
and then there'd be some kind of liquid there that you
yeah,
could have. But if nothing would form right away, basically.
right.
Interesting. And I do also know, I will say, if you are going to harvest something like this, just be careful because it hurts the tree when you do that, basically, right? It's
Yes.
like cutting, like that's the tree's, I guess not the tree's blood because it's not a true
It's
sap.
more like a clotting
Yeah,
compound, you could say.
sure. But still, don't be slicing up the same tree
Yeah,
or like big parts of it.
yeah.
Just take what you need.
One warning, if you are going to harvest directly from trees, ash does suffer from a fungus called Chalara dieback. So you need to make sure that if you're harvesting, you're avoiding diseased trees. Anyway, so some fun things to know about it. Obviously, as we said, the wood is highly regarded for its strength and durability, making it ideal for crafting wands or staffs to use in
Mm.
ritual work.
I
I
will say
mean,
this stick feels really good in the
yeah,
hand.
I
I like it a
like
lot.
I like it a lot too. It's very good. It smells great. So, one way that you can receive the support of an ash tree is to pour a cup of fresh milk or a shot of a quality whiskey. The page that I looked at said quality whiskey. Don't give it the cheap stuff.
Yeah.
At the base of an ash tree while asking for its protection and strength.
Oh, I love that. That's nice. Yeah.
Pour one out for the ash tree.
Hey, it's been a sacred tree since who knows how long back, right?
Yeah. An old French protection charm was to take a twig of ash and a piece of elm bark, tie them together, and then sew them to the inside of your jacket. A Cornish luck charm. Find an ash twig with an even number of leaves. Find an ash twig with an even number of leaves
Hmm.
and pluck it from the tree. Make sure to thank the tree for the luck. Ash wands were traditionally used to give animals strength or health. Craft an ash wand while thinking fondly of your pet.
Oh.
Take a stick of ash, peel the bark, make sure to dry and preserve it. Sand and oil the surface with a nice linseed oil. When it
Okay.
is complete, use it to bless your dog, cat, bird, hamster, sheep.
Goat.
Yeah,
I know you want a goat.
I know. I can't even get into it.
One day. We're working our way up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the last one is to make a sachet of fallen leaves to tuck into your pillowcase. It will protect you in your dreams.
Probably also smell lovely.
Mm.
Anything that smells lovely under your pillow while you're sleeping is probably going to help you have a better sleep. Versus.
I love a sachet for that reason.
Yeah.
So I have brought some ash tree tea for us to enjoy in my thermos. So I did pure ash leaves, dried, and I added a little bit of our local Sussex honey.
Mm. Yeah, that's really nice.
Mm. It is bitter.
It's an earthy tea.
Mm.
It's got a little bit of a bitter, herby earthiness. Mm-hmm. I will say, probably not the most pleasant thing I've ever drank, but it's got purposes, right?
Yes. So I am going to, I think, kind of outro to the podcast. We're going to do a nice ash tree meditation that I've done. You can do this outside with an ash, or you can do it with a twig or a leaf or a cup of tea. So we're going to settle in, find a comfortable position, let your body grow heavy and relaxed. If you are holding a branch of ash, feel the weight of it in your hand. If you are sipping your tea, feel its warmth. And notice the scent of the ash that rises to meet you. Bring your awareness to your breath, not trying to change it, but just follow its rhythm. With each inhale, think of the busyness of the day, thoughts and plans, and then exhale. Let them drain away like water through soft soil. After you've taken a few deep breaths and you feel calm, turn your full attention to the ash. Whether it's through the branch you hold, the tea you drink, or the presence of an ash tree beside you, you are making a connection to the great world tree. It is a cosmic tree that holds all of the worlds within its branches and roots. Sense the strength and stability of this world tree. See it in your mind's eye, a tall, straight trunk reaching for the heavens. It is a pillar of light and air. Feel its deep, widespread roots anchoring deep into the dark, nourishing earth. This tree is a bridge, a connector of worlds. Its roots are in the earth. Its crown is in the sky. Feel yourself held between the balance of the celestial and the terrestrial. The ash teaches flexibility. It reminds us that to reach high, we must be deeply rooted. To dream, we must also be grounded. With your next breath, inhale, exhale. Ask to receive the ash's gifts. The gift of resilience. You bend, you do not break in the winds. The gift of clarity, to see through confusion and into the heart. And the gift of connection, to remember that you are not separate from the web of life or from the celestial. Feel this quiet ancient power of the tree flowing into you. It is not a storm, but a steady, clear stream. Rest in the presence of the ash. When you are ready, gently bring your awareness back to the room. Feel your body in your chair, the air on your skin. Carry the sense of calm, strength, and connection with you. The ash remains, and so will your bond. You can return to this feeling whenever you need to remember your place in the web.
That was very nice. I'm sorry I opened my eyes a little early.
That is okay.
It is. It's a very. It's got like a bitterness to it, but it's not like a harsh bitterness.
No, it's just very earthy,
Yes.
but that is what it is, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be common of most herbal teas. Like I've had pine needle tea and it tastes like you're drinking a Christmas tree. It's kind of how that works. Yeah, I think it would be a good thing to add to a tea blend, especially if you're not used to herbal teas and you don't really like that sort of bitter flavor to it. I think it would go really well with peppermint.
Yeah.
I think the peppermint and some honey would be a really nice mix to kind of down the bitterness a little bit. I will say I always recommend against putting dairy into an herbal tea.
Okay.
But honey is great. Sugar of any kind is great. Agave nectar if you're not a fan of honey. I also think that lemon is a nice addition. Some citrus to
Some
brighten it
lemon
up.
would be nice for sure.
You just have to be careful. You don't want the acids in the lemon to eat away too much at all the good stuff.
So you don't leave it in a thermos with lemon in it, basically.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Don't make a lemonade ash tree mix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much it. I would encourage you guys to, use the meditation if it helps you. This is our outro, so to speak. This has been
Common Roots.
Just once again, I'm going to pop in a little disclaimer. So this podcast has been for educational and entertainment purposes only. It is not medical advice. Always consult with a qualified healthcare practitioner, clinical herbalist, or your doctor before starting any herbal regimens, especially if you're pregnant, nursing on medication, or have any specific medical conditions. And always, please harvest plants ethically and sustainably with an absolutely positive identification, or source them from reputable suppliers. Please give us a rating on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening. Give us a little boost. Let us know if this information helped you. Let us know if there's any topics that you want to see us cover. If you have any follow-up questions, I want to try and be communicative with the people who are listening. So definitely reach out. We are going to be on Instagram, Common Roots Podcast.
And TikTok.
We are also going to be on TikTok, under the Common Roots. Obviously, we have our website for our herbal business, which I will throw in there. It is alchemy, alchymys.co.uk. And, I think that's about it.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah. Look at that. We're right about it.
We're
at 3:10.
called?
Yeah. So here you turned your phone off, didn't you? I'll do it.
Yes, I did, but I can turn it back on. We got 5 minutes, you said.
Yeah.
I don't think we're 1 minute late either.
No, I don't think he's gonna storm in here and kick us out or anything. Just grab my phone and shoot him a message.
Oh, you're gonna. He said call, I think. Not. You might want to call him.
Oh.
Just so that he notices, because it might not ring if you just message him.
That's fair.